it's typical that the moment I figured out how to adjust the length of Raw down to 2 hours was just after I moved the entire women's division and cruiserweight division over to Raw. So now I know how to do it. I can't do it because then I wouldn't be able to fit everything on the show. We're going to need, if this continues after WrestleMania, we're going to need a whole big reshuffle of these shows and brands and whatever. Hello and welcome to part 8 of the Road to WrestleMania. I'm Kev, and coming up on today's episode we have another episode of Raw. There's just one more episode of Raw after this before we have the Fastlane pay-per-view, so things are starting to move in towards a direction where we have some matches lining up for Fastlane as well as having stuff in place for WrestleMania off the back of it. Now, what I was saying before the video about not being able to fit everything onto one card, for the first time we're having to use pre-show stuff, because I can't fit all these women's and cruiserweight matches on. I think I've got too much on one show. I'm trying to build towards too much at WrestleMania. I sat down with a pen and paper yesterday and sketched out what my WrestleMania card could look like, and there was about 16 matches at this point, so we definitely need to start trimming some of that down and prioritising. I'm now starting to understand why they have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and why they introduced the Money in the Bank ladder match and all this stuff. It's because you can't fit everyone on the card. Who'd have thought? So anyway, the first of our pre-show matches gives us the beautiful people who we signed and now can't fit onto Raw apparently. They're up against Becky Lynch, our SmackDown Women's Champion, and Bayley, who's supposedly one of the contenders for the overall women's title when it's eventually combined. It's actually not a bad match for the women's division. A C- is not too bad at all. We didn't get any improvements from anybody. Becky Lynch is the top performer in the match of a C-. Everyone else coming in with a D. I'm actually quite encouraged by that, and I wonder if the two women's matches we've got in the main show can get a rating as high, or if we maybe need to make sure Becky features more prominently in future if she's turning in decent performances. What turn are we doing? No, we don't want to. Oh, we were changing. Yeah, that understudy change we did for Becky a few weeks ago didn't work at all, so we're changing her again. She's just going to be an old school face now. The gimmick change was too soon after her last one, but it got a very good rating. Well, the last one got an awful rating, so I don't think it really matters that it was too soon. We've fixed a problem that we created. The other pre-show match we've got is in the Cruiserweight division. Rich Swann against the newly heel-turned Sin Cara, who turned heel last week and now can't find a place on Raw this week. I am the worst booker in the world. Sin Cara coming in with a C-, Rich Swann with a D, and we move into the main show, which starts off with Triple H addressing the Seth Rollins Roman Reigns situation. Now, if you remember, last week's Raw ended with the number one contenders match, again, between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, which ended in Roman Reigns getting disqualified when he just went nutso on Rollins, turning himself heel in the process and basically beating him to a pulp and not breaking on the referee's count. Triple H is starting the show with these two, explaining that that's not the way you earn a shot as a number one contender, and actually neither of them are getting a title shot off the back of that. If they can't behave properly, then they're not going to get a title shot at all. So we're going to get these two to settle their differences, and they're going to settle their differences at the Fastlane pay-per-view, where we're going to have Rollins against Reigns one more time. It's properly face versus heel now, and they're the right way round, unlike when they've done it in real life. So we don't have a number one contender going into the Fastlane pay-per-view. Interesting. I wonder if that will come up on the rest of the show. Who knows? It probably might. We got an A on that section. Oh, and we can finally properly turn Roman Reigns, because we tried to turn him at the end of Raw last week and it wouldn't let me. So, no, we don't want to continue without turning him. We need to completely turn him. Turn was a complete success. Roman Reigns is now fully fledged heel. And we move into a match between Rusev and Sheamus. A lot of the upper mid-carders have been picking on each other a little bit lately. We've got Rusev and Samoa Joe who've teamed up. We've got Cesaro and Sheamus who are still teamed up. We've got Finn Balor and Sami Zayn have had their little alliance. There's lots of little teams and alliances and factions forming in the upper mid-card, and this is one of those developing storylines. So we get Rusev versus Sheamus. We've got Cesaro and Sheamus versus Rusev and Joe's storyline on the go. It's going to be a match at some point. We've done it on Raw previously, but I'm going to do it slightly differently when we do it again. I'm not sure yet whether it'll be Fastlane or WrestleMania. This might be one of the 16 matches that gets moved off the WrestleMania card and we do it a little bit earlier. But it's getting a C+. That's not too bad. Rusev with a C+, Sheamus with a B. Probably deserves to be involved in something better than a tag team program. But when we tried to move him up into the proper main event level, he just failed. So I don't really know what to do with Sheamus. Let me know down in the comments, what on earth are we supposed to do with Sheamus? And now we have Finn Balor coming out and saying, hang on a minute. So you've no longer got a number one contender for the Universal title. That's the same Universal title that I never lost. You've got your new number one contender. And then he just walks off. Doesn't give anyone a chance to respond. He's not speaking directly to anyone. But he is very much throwing his hat into the ring for a shot at the Universal title, which obviously he was the first Universal title holder. He had to give the belt up the next night, wasn't it? Because of injury. And Kevin Owens has held it ever since. So quite rightly, Finn Balor is thinking, well, perhaps I'll get a shot at that belt. That would go down nicely. And then we have Asuka against Charlotte Flair. Charlotte making a defense of the Raw Women's Championship against the wrestler who pinned her last week in a 3-on-3 tag team match that we had. Charlotte coming in with a C-, which, I mean, that's no better than Becky. Our two women's champions at the moment. Neither of them are really pushing a case forward to become the combined women's champion when we do combine those titles, which I'm thinking probably will be at WrestleMania that happens. Asuka D+, not really building on the explosive start she had last week. She's getting better at her gimmick, but she's not really ready to be involved in the main event title challenging women's picture just yet. She's only coming in with D+. That's, to put that into context, that's roughly on the same level as Madison Rayne and Velvet Sky had in the pre-show. So we move into our next segment, which is Chris Jericho challenging Goldberg to a match. He doesn't like Goldberg. He wants to wrestle him. He's not got much on at the moment. He keeps getting dragged into whatever nonsense Kevin Owens is up to. He's lost his United States title to Sami Zayn. He lost the rematch. He wants to take it out on someone. Who do I really not like? I know, I really don't like Goldberg. So he challenges Goldberg to a match, and in exactly the same way as when Brock Lesnar challenged Goldberg, Goldberg's obviously not here. So we're not going to know if he accepts the challenge or not, if this is going to be a match or not. I'm a little surprised that a Chris Jericho promo is only getting a C+. Was he, I mean, did he do it with a gag on or something? Chris Jericho on the mic is gold. I thought that was the safest segment of the whole show, giving Chris Jericho a microphone, but apparently not. So we move on to the next segment, which is in our Cruiserweight division, and we've got our number one contender for the Cruiserweight title, Jay Lethal, our Cruiserweight champion, Neville. Neville teams up with Brian Kendrick, Kenny Omega teaming up with Jay Lethal, and Jay Lethal, again, pushing his explosive heat that he's arrived. That's not even the right term. He's hot at the moment. It's no better. I've lost the ability to speak. Jay Lethal has been excellent since he's arrived in the WWE. He's firmly established himself as the number one contender for this title very quickly, and now pins the champion in a he's pinning Brian Kendrick in a tag match. So he's not quite pinning Neville yet, but establishing himself again as the man to beat. Oh, it's rain. I was wondering what was going on in here. Rain on the ceiling. Establishing himself as the man to beat, coming up against the other man to beat. You know what I mean. Brian Kendrick's the weak link, which is surprising because he's Brian Kendrick. You wouldn't expect him to be. Really encouraging to see that Neville, Kenny Omega and Jay Lethal all coming in with C's. We get a C for the segment as a whole. A little bit worrying. We're not really getting anything above a C just yet, but we're establishing new storylines. We're building stuff. We'll get there. And Brian Kendrick has injured himself. I don't know what kind of injury that is. He was rubbish in that match anyway. It's not going to be a massive loss. I don't know how long that's going to keep him out for. And then we have Jay Lethal being interviewed, hyping up his upcoming match with Neville. That's going to be at Fastlane, where we have Jay Lethal against Neville. Is it safe to look at the Fastlane thing? No, we probably shouldn't look at that. Spoilers. But we'll book that in anyway. And then we have Cesaro against Samoa Joe. And finally, we get above a C rating. We get a B-. Cesaro coming in with that B-. Joe wins the match, though, with a submission. He gets a C+. And again, that storyline involving these two big superstar teams on Raw moves on a little bit with Joe again confirming that he is quite the competitor since his call-up from NXT, so he's putting Cesaro in his place. So we've had Sheamus beat Rusev, but then Joe beat Cesaro. They're all beating each other at the moment. This feels like something that's going to need to be settled at some point. And then we move into another women's match. We're still trying to find out who our number one contenders are and who our hot talents are in this women's division. We've got 2 champions, but neither of them are holding the actual title. And then we've got the likes of Bayley, Sasha, Mickie James, Natalya, who are all thinking, well, hang on, it shouldn't just be between Charlotte and Becky Lynch. We're involved in all this as well. Please let us have a go. So we have Sasha drawing with Mickie James and Natalya, because just a couple of minutes into the match, Nia Jax storms in, attacks Sasha. Sasha's coming out of it with a C-. Natalya also a C-. Mickie James only a D+, which is surprising that she's the weakest of those 3. We get a D+ on the segment as a whole. And Triple H comes out and says, right, this is me trying to get some higher ratings for the ladies. So we get Triple H involved. And Triple H is saying, right, Nia, we're not having that. You're joining this match. You can't just come out and beat up Sasha. We get a B-. It becomes a tag match. So we now have Sasha Banks and Natalya. Remember, Natalya turned face a week or 2 back against Mickie James and Nia Jax, who've already established themselves as a budding tag team when Mickie James arrived on Raw last week, teaming up with Nia Jax to attack Natalya, thus turning her face. So there's a reason for everyone to be involved in this match the way they are. We have a tag team match, and Sasha Banks and Natalya win by Sasha submitting Nia Jax with the bank statement. Nia Jax is the weak link, but you wouldn't expect anything else. The other 3 of them all getting C- and E+ for Nia Jax. She's very much the up-and-comer. Happy to have the 3 title challengers all coming in with C-, and we get a C- for the segment overall, and Nia Jax improves her performance skills. Everyone wins on that little sequence of stuff. That was no longer the worst booker in the world. We handled all that quite well, hopefully. And then we move into some action for our champions. We've got our Universal Champion against our US Champion. It's a long-running feud, and we always know it's going to be a good match. They have great chemistry, shows in their performances. They both come in with B's, a B+ for Owens, a B- for Sami Zayn. We get a B- for the match overall. Kevin Owens does defeat Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn? Why? I had Randy Orton the other day. Now I've got Sami Zayn. I'm inventing new divas all the time. And obviously, Kevin Owens has to win the match. He's the Universal Champion. We don't want to mix things up too much. Neither of the titles are on the line, but we just get a nice, solid win for Owens. He's been involved in a lot of screwy finishes recently and tag matches, and we just need to establish that, look, he is the champion for a reason. He's a very good wrestler. And then we finish things off because it's not all about Finn Balor. We all remember what happened on SmackDown the other day. Randy Orton has decided that he's cashing in his Royal Rumble winning WrestleMania main event dearly on Kevin Owens rather than his big buddy Bray Wyatt. So after Owens is victorious, Randy Orton enters the ring and beats him up. And that's how we end the show, with Randy Orton holding the Universal title aloft. He's obviously not won it. There was no match. But Finn Balor's there. Oh, he's not happy out the back because when am I going to get my title shot? This fella off SmackDown's turned up now. And we get a B- on that segment as well. So the show as a whole gets a B-, thanks mainly to a very strong end. We had a bit of an iffy start, which I'm told isn't a disaster. We got that A in there from the angle with Rollins and Reigns, which is fine. Then lots of C's as we're building up the cruiserweights and the women, and then we move into the main event stuff. Joe and Cesaro gets a B. That angle with Triple H got us a B as well, and then this stuff at the end with Kevin Owens gets a B as well. We increase our popularity in 16 regions, lose popularity in 18, get a B- overall. I can handle that. That's perfectly acceptable. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching.